Could Adam and Eve reveal more than you thought? Beyond the Garden of Eden is a mysterious, human-centered story. Imagine being expelled from paradise and thrust into a world of adversity and a spiritual battleground where hope and despair fight. We share this story, not just with them. Like us, they struggle with regret, redemption, and sin. Did you know the tempter worked after the garden? Or that Adam and Eve spent days in icy rivers seeking forgiveness and salvation? How about Cain and Abel? How could one jealous act destroy humanity's fragile hope? The ancient book of Adam and Eve tells a story of faith, adversity, and tenacity that makes you wonder about the scope of human experience and the timeless nature of our journey from the beginning of time. Do we remain exiled? At first, everything was fine. Imagine a world without sadness, where every moment was peaceful and every breath was spring-like. Eden, the Creator's paradise, was so pure it seemed to exist outside of time. In this garden, Adam and Eve thrived. They walked with the divine in the soft evening breeze, with light hearts, no doubt. Every need and desire was met. Fruits from the trees symbolized wisdom and life, as well as food. The river's pristine flow nourished and beautified the land. The tree of life and the tree of knowledge of good and evil were the crown of creation in the garden, where beauty flourished. God told Adam and Eve to enjoy the garden's abundance, except for one tree's fruit. "You must not eat from it," he warned, "for on the day you partake, you shall surely face death." Adam and Eve had to put the Creator first to prove their love and obedience. But temptation crept into this idyllic paradise like a shadow over the bright land. Look at the cunning serpent who whispered lies to Eve. The serpent deceived with power and enlightenment promises. Hissed, "You will not surely die." Because God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like Him, knowing good and evil. Did God truly command you not to eat from any tree in the garden? He asked. Eve confidently repeated God's command. That fateful moment changed everything. Their eyes were opened to their fragility, not enlightenment. First, shame overcame them, and they quickly covered themselves in fig leaves to hide their guilt. Once joyful, the sound of God walking in the garden now frightened them. They fled into the trees in terror when He called out. Eve's heart raced before the tree. God sought them out and asked them questions to get them to make decisions, not because He didn't know enough. The fruit was seductive and radiant, promising wisdom beyond measure. "Where are you?" Adam asked. "I heard you in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid." Adam admitted, "The woman you gave me, she gave me the fruit, and I ate it." Eve blamed the serpent. Sin brought division, shame, and strained relationships into the world. As a result, Adam, the first man, was condemned to a life of toil, working the ground that would yield only thorns and thistles instead of the bountiful harvest he once knew. The serpent, once clever and upright, was cursed to crawl upon its belly, destined to eat dust for all eternity. Eve, too, would bear the weight of pain in childbirth, forever grappling with her and her husband's strife. And most of all, after entering Eden, Adam and Eve felt the weight of their decisions on their hearts. The cold of the outside world surrounded them, and the ground felt like it was pushing back against their every step. They cried as they realized how much they had lost, but in their grief, God showed them hope. He made skin garments to cover their nudity and sacrificed an animal to keep them from feeling pain. As Adam and Eve entered their new reality outside of Eden, the once bright beauty of their former home had disappeared, leaving behind barren fields and rocky landscapes. and the air, once filled with the sweet scent of eternal spring, now hung heavy with the dust of hard work and struggle. Adam, who had once walked in close fellowship with the divine, now toiled under the relentless sun, his hands marked by labor. The intense emotional and spiritual pain pierced their very being, not just the weight of their bodies. They would sit in silent reflection, looking to the horizon, hoping that the gates of paradise would open again, but they were firmly closed, a painful reminder of their exile. As night fell and the stars filled the vast darkness, memories of divine warmth and the soft whisper of guidance filled their minds. But now that sacred voice felt far away, drowned out by the turmoil within, and doubts started to creep in. Was the Almighty still keeping watch over them? Did He still have them in His heart? In the darkness, the ever-shrewd and unforgiving enemy saw their weakness and took advantage of the opportunity to magnify their grief. He came to them in different guises, sometimes as a glowing figure, at other times as a whisper in the wind, and he planted seeds of doubt, telling them that the Almighty had abandoned them, that their supplications were in vain, that they were permanently marked. "Why waste your breath in prayer?" he hissed one fateful evening as Adam was kneeling by the river, tears running down his face. "Do you really think the Almighty hears you? Do you think He offers forgiveness?" For a moment, Adam hesitated, his heart heavy with doubt, but he remembered the promise, the dim glimmer of hope given to them before they left, and that memory strengthened his soul. A voice spoke to Eve, saying, "You brought this upon yourselves. Your disobedience has shattered everything. How will you bear the weight of your guilt?" She was picking berries for her family in the garden. The truth of those words struck her heart. She had been the first to taste the forbidden fruit and give in to temptation, and her choices weighed heavily on her. Their journey was one of transformation rather than survival, and gradually they realized that repentance was more than just regret, but action. They fasted, depriving themselves of food and water for days in order to humble themselves before God. They stood waist-deep in icy rivers, enduring the cold as a kind of penance. They prayed continuously, raising their voices into the heavens like incense, and they sought forgiveness as well as restoration, a means of repairing the strained relationship with their Creator. Yet, the path to redemption was not without its difficulties. On some days, hopelessness threatened to overwhelm them completely. Adam would sit by the fire, gazing into the flames, wondering if their efforts were worthwhile, and Eve would wake up in the middle of the night, sweating, and haunted by dreams of Eden slipping farther away. However, they supported each other, finding strength in their shared goal, reminding each other of God's promises, and believing they were not forgotten in exile. Their story was still being told, but it was clear that their journey had a great deal of meaning, a strong reminder of the resilience of the human spirit and the eternal grace that envelops them. In a time of great adversity, they found themselves in a forge of transformation, where their true selves were revealed and their faith was strengthened. Through this experience, they embraced the virtues of humility, patience, and unwavering perseverance. They learned that, although sin had cast shadows over their existence, it was unable to extinguish the flickering flames of hope. They would always carry the scars of their past, but they also held the promise of something greater, a strong desire for redemption and a sincere desire to be with the divine, that would shape their lives and those who followed them. As Adam and Eve ventured into their new life beyond the gates of Eden, They faced trials that would challenge the core of their existence. The world outside their former paradise not only presented physical challenges, but also weighed heavily on their spirits. Each dawn served as a poignant reminder of their lost home. The gentle breezes of Eden replaced by the relentless sun, the once bountiful earth now resistant and unyielding. Adam labored with unwavering determination. His hands bore the marks of his relentless efforts. Each stroke of his hoe seemed to echo the burden of the curse he had brought upon himself and his lineage. Eve, too, faced her own tribulations. The joy of bringing forth life transformed into a struggle fraught with pain. With each cry that escaped her lips during labor, she recalled the divine decree: "I will greatly increase your pains in childbearing." Yet, amid their trials, a remarkable transformation began to unfold. Their hardships did not entirely harden their spirits. Rather, they became a pathway to humility and reflection. This moving story of two souls on a quest for redemption is told in the book of Adam and Eve. It describes how Adam and Eve spent countless days in prayer and fasting, fervently pleading for forgiveness for their transgressions. How, at dawn, they would climb mountains, standing on jagged cliffs with their arms raised high, pleading for mercy from the heavens. And how, at times, they stood waist-deep in icy rivers for hours on end, believing that such penance might bring them closer to divine grace. But the road to repentance was not without its difficulties. The enemy, ever unrelenting in his evil intent, attempted to trap them. He appeared in a variety of ways, sometimes as a snake, slinking through the night, and at other times as a glowing figure, providing false comfort. And his devious murmurs were designed to increase their despair. "Do you really think forgiveness is on the horizon?" he hissed one fateful night as Adam lay awake under a canopy of darkness. "You have disobeyed him. You have broken his confidence. How could you ever hope to win back his favor?" At that point, doubt crept into Adam's heart. Was there still a way to be saved? Had they strayed too far from redemption? One fateful day, while Eve was gathering firewood, a voice broke the silence behind her, and she turned to see a figure glowing and filled with light. Why do you suffer so much?" the figure gently inquired. "It has abandoned you. Your prayers are meaningless. Accept your fate." For a moment, the weight of those words tempted her heart, but then she remembered God's promise, that even though they had sinned, He had not entirely abandoned them. With a burst of strength, she gripped her chest and cried, "Begone, deceiver! I will not heed your falsehoods." During their trials, Adam and Eve faced the unrelenting enemy, a genuine test of their spirit. With each victory over temptation, their resolve grew stronger. They became more aware of the lies that tried to mislead them, and they grew closer to their faith. Their prayers became more intense, and their fasting became evidence of their dedication. Eventually, they experienced moments of peace, a gentle reminder of God's unfailing love, even in their moments of weakness. This transformational journey required a heart of humility, steadfastness, and an unwavering trust in the unending grace that overshadowed their shortcomings. Their story serves as a potent reminder of the path of repentance and the natural desire to reestablish a connection with the divine. Even in the darkest moments, Adam and Eve sought the light. Their story shows that no matter how lost we may feel, there is always a way back to the Creator, if we have the courage to take that path. Through their struggles, we discover that true repentance is not characterized by perfection, but by unwavering determination. It is about stumbling, getting back up, and moving forward, one sincere prayer at a time. Adam and Eve found themselves in a never-ending spiritual battle as they continued their exile. The enemy, Satan, who had first tricked them in Eden, did not back down. Instead, he stepped up his attacks in an attempt to take advantage of their weakness and increase their hopelessness. He came to them in guises that were clever, sometimes posing as an angel of light, promising false promises of comfort and deliverance, and other times he whispered lies into their hearts, telling them that God's mercy was unattainable and that their sin was too severe to be pardoned. These instances of temptation were not fleeting, but persistent, eroding their faith like an unending tempest. During the time of Adam and Eve, they endured hardships that tried their very souls, but these hardships served as a catalyst for their spiritual awakening. They realized that their struggle was more than just physical and emotional anguish. It was a fight against darkness that aimed to separate them from the divine. In this intense struggle, they discovered the immense power of prayer. Every morning, as the sun rose over the bleak earth, they would kneel together, their voices rising in unison to the heavens, their sincere and heartfelt prayers, full of confessions, entreaties, and unwavering hope. They called out to the Almighty, not out of entitlement, but from a deep-seated faith in His unending goodness. And this humble act of surrender became their firm anchor, keeping them steady in the weird chaos around them. Fasting became a sacred practice in the path of repentance, and for days they abstained from eating and submerged themselves in rivers, the water rising to their necks, a profound symbol of their humility before the Almighty. The freezing waters swirled around them, testing their resolve, but they persisted. Every uncomfortable moment was a poignant reminder of their dependence on the divine, a testament to their helplessness to save themselves. Throughout their struggles, the adversary remained vigilant, attempting to instill discord and despair. "Why pray?" he would whisper, doubting their hearts. "You have been forsaken. You are alone." Such whispers pierced their spirits, shaking the very foundation of their belief. Adam would often look up at the heavens, wondering if the divine was there, and Eve would also experience the loneliness of loneliness, her heart weighed down by their predicament. However, in those dark moments, a remarkable decision was made. They clung to hope, reminding each other of the sacred promise that from Eve would come a descendant destined to defeat the serpent. This prophecy became their anchor, a guiding light amid the encroaching shadows. During a period of extreme adversity, their fortitude arose not from physical prowess, but from deep-seated desperation. They realized that they could not defeat the enemy on their own. They were united in their faith and drew strength from God's unfailing presence. When the enemy attacked, they retaliated with fervent prayer. When despair overcame them, they found comfort in the sacred texts and the promises given to them. Gradually, they learnt to recognize the enemy's plans. Clearly, they pierced through his delusions and resolutely refused to let him rule their lives. This transformation was not immediate, but it was unquestionably profound. Through their journey, Adam and Eve discovered the deep value of unity. Despite being the only people on the planet, they were comforted by each other. Adam supported Eve when she was doubting, and Eve strengthened Adam when his resolve faltered. Their relationship was a shining example of the strength that comes from unity in the face of adversity. They realized that solitude was one of the enemy's most powerful tools, and that by staying together, they could withstand his crafty schemes. Time weaves the story of Adam and Eve into a profound lesson for those who follow. Their tribulations serve as a reminder that life outside of Eden is full of challenges, but also opportunities for change. Although sin brought us grief and conflict, it did not determine our destiny. Adam and Eve's perseverance illuminates the way, reminding us that even in our weakness, we can rely on divine strength. Their journey inspires us to resist temptation, seek redemption in our mistakes, and place our faith in a greater purpose, even when it appears unachievable. Their journey is woven with threads of redemption and hope, a testament that even when we wander astray, divine grace is ever present. Despite the difficult and trial-filled path, the unwavering love that surrounds them remains constant. While in turmoil, they fought the world and their own doubts. It was a profound struggle for their very essence, a quest to uphold their beliefs against daunting challenges. But they proved that triumph is possible through earnest prayers, dedicated fasting, and unwavering faith. These two boys symbolized not only the continuation of humanity, but also the possibility of redemption. After years of suffering and toil, Adam and Eve were finally blessed with children. The arrival of Cain and Abel gave them a sense of purpose and renewal that they had not experienced since their exile from Eden. Adam and Eve devoted their love, faith, and teachings to raising their sons in the hopes that they would be able to restore what had been lost and leave a legacy of righteousness. In the old days, Cain was a hard-working farmer who worked the land with unwavering devotion under the scorching sun. His heart was filled with pride because he saw his labor as a sacred sacrifice to the Creator, a way to support his loved ones. In contrast, his brother Abel adopted the role of a shepherd, caring for his flock with gentle care and unwavering devotion. Abel's gentle nature mirrored the innocence of the world around him. Although both brothers approached their vocations with sincerity, their lives began to diverge. Cain, with his fierce determination and ambition, aimed for greatness, while Abel found comfort in humility and delighted in life's small pleasures. Long ago, Adam and Eve taught their sons to offer sacrifices to the Almighty, which is a profound act of worship and gratitude. This was not just a ritual, it was an opportunity for Cain and Abel to strengthen their faith and establish a closer relationship with the divine. Abel carefully selected the best lambs from his flock, presenting them with a pure heart. God accepted his offer with favor, acknowledging Abel's obedience and humility. In contrast, when Cain offered his offering, a portion of his harvest, it was greeted with an eerie silence, showing no sign of divine approval. Cain's heart raged, revealing the deep-seated turmoil within. Instead of seeking guidance or reflecting on his own actions, he allowed the dark seed of jealousy to take root. Why did God look favorably towards Abel? What made his brother's offering shine brighter in the eyes of the Lord? These questions consumed him, twisting his mind until bitterness overcame all reason. Adam and Eve, ever watchful, sensed the shift in their beloved son, and they tried to counsel him, gently reminding him of the importance of faith and trust in the divine wisdom. "Do not let sin take control," they urged. "You have the strength to rise above this moment or to be ensnared by anger." However, Cain's heart was dark, and over time, the seeds of resentment he harbored towards Abel grew into a deep-seated hatred. Where there had once been a bond of brotherhood, there was now a chasm of division. One fateful evening, as Abel was tending to his flock in the fields, Cain approached him. His jealousy had become overwhelming, and in a moment of blind rage, he struck down his own brother, causing him to collapse to the ground. his lifeblood leaking into the ground. At that moment, Cain realized the consequences of his actions, but it was too late to alter his direction. A tragedy that would reverberate through the ages occurred in the heart of Adam and Eve's home. The loss of Abel was a sorrow that pierced their very beings, a grief so deep that it seemed to engulf them. Not only did the death of their beloved son leave them broken, but so did the stark realization that the shadows of sin had infiltrated their family. The decisions they made in the garden had unleashed a torrent of despair, and now they faced the bitter consequences of their actions. As they grieved for Abel, their hearts ached for Cain, the child they had raised, now a figure of darkness. How could they reconcile the innocence of his youth with the weight of his serious sin? God himself stepped in and confronted Cain about his crime, asking, "Where is your brother Abel?" Cain replied, "Am I my brother's keeper?" As punishment, God cursed Cain to roam the earth, unable to find peace or rest. But even in judgment, God showed mercy by leaving a mark on Cain to shield him from those who might seek retribution. The grief of Abel's death marked a pivotal moment in Adam and Eve's journey. They realized, with fresh insight, the far-reaching consequences of sin. It was not just about their relationship with God. The effects extended and affected future generations. The innocence they had known in Eden seemed like a vanishing dream, eclipsed by the harsh realities of a world tainted by sin. Nevertheless, they clung to hope. Through earnest prayer and sincere repentance, they sought the Almighty, fostering the conviction that redemption could still be seen even in the darkest of circumstances. The story of Cain and Abel serves as a poignant reminder of the dual nature of humanity, representing both virtue and vice. While Abel's life ended tragically, his legacy is a powerful example of integrity, and Cain's decision to walk a path of destruction highlights the crucial themes of accountability and the necessity of grace. The journey of Adam and Eve demonstrates the serious consequences of sin, but it also illuminates the eternal promise of redemption through faith. For the first time since their exile from Eden, Adam and Eve felt a sense of purpose and renewal after years of suffering and toil, and the birth of Cain and Abel gave them hope. These two sons symbolized the future, a chance to rebuild what had been lost. Cain, the elder, was a farmer who worked the soil with determination, while Abel, the younger, was a shepherd who cared for his flock. Their opposing roles symbolized the diversity of human labor and the possibility of harmony between various lifestyles. At first, everything seemed bright and full of promise. Adam and Eve saw their sons grow and flourish in their own ways. Cain worked hard at his crops, trying to bring life to the unyielding earth. Abel, on the other hand, enjoyed the tender care of his flock and developed a bond with his sheep that spoke to the beauty of creation. Both brothers went to the altar and offered their best offerings to the Almighty as a sign of their devotion and gratitude. Abel brought forth the firstborn of his sheep, offering the finest cuts with a pure heart. Cain, too, laid before God the fruits of his labor, hoping for divine approval. A shadow, however, fell upon the land. Abel's offering was accepted, but Cain's was rejected. This rejection ignited a fierce flame of jealousy within Cain, a flame that grew brighter with every dawn. He wondered why he was thought to have been neglected, and why his brother was enjoying the light of approval. His heart darkened, consumed by resentment and bitterness. Rather than seeking wisdom or reflecting on his own actions, Cain surrendered to the tumultuous emotions, and the growing envy inside him twisted and coiled, smothering any semblance of peace. Adam and Eve had already tasted the bitter fruit of sin, and now they stood by, hearts heavy as its shadow loomed over their family. Cain's rage simmered, his spirit darkening with every moment, until that fateful day when his rage could no longer be contained, when he called Abel into the fields under the pretense of reconciliation. But instead of healing, a tragic betrayal occurred as he struck down his own brother, the earth absorbing Abel's blood, a silent witness to the weight of this terrible act. In the midst of the garden, Adam and Eve experienced the unfathomable loss of their son Abel. This was not just the loss of a beloved child. It was a stark realization that sin had become a part of their family and cast a shadow that extended far beyond their own lives. Abel's premature death signaled the beginning of a sorrowful legacy, a never-ending cycle of conflict and heartache that would reverberate through the ages. The weight of their grief was exacerbated by a sneaky guilt. Had they failed in their parental duties? Was there anything more they could have done to prevent such a disaster? These questions lingered in their hearts, adding to their already heavy burden of sorrow. God confronted Cain in a divine moment to find out what had happened to Abel. "Where is your brother?" God inquired, fully aware of everything that had transpired. Cain's response, "Am I my brother's keeper?" bared his heart, exposing a terrifying alienation from his own family. God then cursed Cain, condemning him to a life of wandering, cut off from both land and community. Nevertheless, even in this judgment, God showed mercy, marking Cain to protect him from those who might want him. This act of grace revealed a profound truth. Despite humanity's missteps, God's compassion remains unwavering. For Adam and Eve, Abel's death served as a sobering reminder of the cost of sin, highlighting the fragility of human relationships and the ease with which envy and hatred could sever even the strongest bonds. They came to understand that sin was not just an outside force, but rather that it existed inside the human heart, waiting for opportunities to become apparent. Nevertheless, there was hope despite the darkness, as Eve gave birth to another son, Seth, whose name means appointed or granted. Through Seth, a new lineage emerged, one that held the promise of redemption and restoration. This chapter of the story of Adam and Eve, emphasizes the dangers of unbridled emotions like jealousy and anger, how seemingly small choices can have disastrous results if ignored, and the fact that, even in our darkest moments, we are not abandoned. Divine plan for redemption is revealed gradually and patiently through the lives of the faithful, and as Adam and Eve continued on their journey, they clung to the hope that the promises of the Almighty would eventually be fulfilled. Despite their sadness and heartbreak, their story ultimately highlighted the possibility of rebirth, serving as a potent testament to the eternal nature of divine love and grace. The Book of Adam and Eve reveals the depths of their journey, revealing experiences that resonate on both personal and universal levels. These accounts remind us that Adam and Eve were not just archetypes. They were people who faced emotions, uncertainties, and aspirations similar to our own. The story of Adam and Eve is told in ways that transcend the brief narrative found in the book of Genesis. The story is replete with themes of resilience, redemption, and the indomitable human spirit in the face of immense loss. Following their expulsion from Eden, Adam and Eve continued to live under the shadow of their sin, constantly reminded of the paradise they had lost. However, this was more than just a physical separation. It was a spiritual one, and each morning brought with it new difficulties: loneliness, fear, exhaustion, and hunger. Despite everything, they held on to the glimmering hope that God would still hear their prayers, and their faith became their lifeline, even when hopelessness threatened to overtake them. Standing on a hillside, his gaze fixed on the far-off gates of Eden, now guarded by cherubim and a flaming sword. His heart aches with longing, but he knows that the path ahead is irrevocable. So he turns to prayer and lays out his sorrow before the Almighty. Eve also struggles with her regrets, the serpent's sly words echoing in her mind as a haunting reminder of her fall into temptation. When she is alone, she kneels by the flowing rivers, allowing the cool water to soothe her. They teach us a profound lesson about the nature of true repentance. It goes beyond simple sorrow and calls for intentional actions towards healing. No matter how far one may stumble, their story demonstrates that there is always a path to rise anew, one step at a time, guided by faith and unwavering resolve. Their journey of repentance is not one of idleness. It is full of purpose and determination. In the Book of Adam and Eve, we see them dedicating days to standing in rivers, raising their voices in fervent prayer, and foregoing comfort as a testament to their penance. However, their journey is not without its challenges. Satan, ever crafty, keeps torturing them. He assumes various forms, appearing as a whisper in the darkness at times and as an angel of light at others, all in an attempt to deepen their sense of hopelessness. "You have been abandoned," he hisses. "God will never forgive you." These lies test Adam and Eve's resolve, but they repeatedly resist him, holding fast to the promise that God has not abandoned them, even though his presence seems far away. Their resistance. This resistance serves as evidence of the strength of faith in defeating evil. Change. Adam and Eve are woven into a tapestry of happiness and sorrow. The birth of their sons, Cain and Abel, gives them hope because they dare to imagine a time when their family may rise above the shadows of their past, a time when their children can thrive without the burden of sin. However, darkness descends when Cain, driven by jealousy, kills his brother Abel. This heartbreaking act plunges Adam and Eve back into a sea of despair and serves as a poignant reminder that the effects of wrongdoing are felt for generations to come. Adam and Eve experience a series of painful but profound lessons during their trials. They realize that sin not only separates humanity from God, but also causes rifts between individuals. Cain's violent act reveals the destructive power of unbridled anger and jealousy, forcing Adam and Eve to confront the fact that their choices have long-lasting effects. Despite this, they remain hopeful, believing that the divine plan for redemption outweighs their mistakes. Their story goes beyond the simple account of humanity's fall. It illuminates the promise of redemption and serves as a poignant reminder that no matter how lost we may feel, there is always a way to find our way back. The Book of Adam and Eve narrates the tale of two souls, embodying the essence of humanity, imperfect, vulnerable, and deeply relatable, as they stumble, suffer, and grieve. Yet deep down, they seek forgiveness, cultivate hope, and strive to re-establish their relationship with the divine. In the end, Adam and Eve's story is not just about their mistakes, but also about their unwavering faith. They show that life after Eden is full of hardships, but also opportunities for development, love, and rebirth. Their journey teaches us that while sin may have entered the world through their deeds, the promise of hope did, and through their sincere prayers, sacrifices, and unwavering faith in divine mercy, they light the way for those who follow them to seek forgiveness and healing. Their story is one of beginnings and endings, of grief and hope, a timeless tale that invites each of us to reflect on our own relationship with God and the choices we make every day. Let their story inspire you. It reminds us that even in a world full of difficulties, we are never truly abandoned. Just as Adam and Eve found comfort in God during their trials, so too can we rely on His unending love, which surpasses our shortcomings. As we reflect on the amazing story of Adam and Eve, I am struck by the depth of humanity that permeates their journey. Not only are their struggles, grief, repentance, resiliency, and hope relics of the past, but they also mirror our own lives. How often do we struggle with regret, face insurmountable challenges, or long for redemption during our darkest moments? The story of Adam and Eve is a poignant reminder that these experiences are universal, enduring bonds that bind each generation to the very first beings who lived on this planet. The close relationship that develops with the divine after the fall resonates deeply. Despite their failures, they do not give up. Instead, they accept faith, prayer, and penance as ways to re-establish their sacred connection, which teaches a valuable lesson. Failure is not the end, but rather a call to change, rebuild, and embrace grace more fully. Their courage in the face of adversity also inspires a spirit of bravery, even when evil appears. Two important lessons emerge from this journey. First, the effects of sin are far-reaching, affecting not only the individual, but also generations. However, there is still hope because redemption and restoration are achievable through sincere effort and faith. And second, the battle of spiritual warfare is not a far-off idea. It manifests itself in our daily choices, relationships with others, and internal conflicts. By accepting this knowledge, we are able to live with greater awareness and purpose. What will you learn from this? Consider your own Eden moments. Those pivotal moments when you experienced loss, stumbled, or longed for rebirth. Consider your enduring beliefs about failure and forgiveness. Discuss the influence of sin on our world while acknowledging that it does not define its end. And, most importantly, consider how you can strengthen your own bonds with hope, faith, and fortitude. Adam and Eve should inspire you to accept change and overcome obstacles for society and yourself.